All right, everyone, welcome back to the Crypto Market Rundown, where we talk about everything that's happening in the great world of cryptocurrency, from the fundamentals in the news to the technicals on the charts. We spend the time doing hours of research so that you all don't have to. And today is a monumental day in cryptocurrency. I would even go so far as to say this is a monumental week or month for the crypto markets, because we are seeing all sorts of records broken. It doesn't matter if it comes to Bitcoin, the ETFs, Ethereum, layer 2s, price action, you name it. There is so much going on this week. The past couple weeks were a little bit smaller, a little bit slower, but we are exploding onto the scene as Bitcoin is hitting new multi-month highs. We're seeing new multi-month records of inflows to the Bitcoin ETFs. We're seeing huge increases when it comes to TVL and so much more when it comes to the base ecosystem. So welcome back, everyone. It's good to have all of you here. We got a lot of really cool things that we are stoked to talk about. But before we do that, Tivo, you're back. You're back with me here in Florida. Welcome, man, and hopefully everything's okay over there post-hurricane.
Yeah, exactly. Monumental week for the markets, monumental week for me finally being able to come back to Tampa Bay. Shout out to all of Florida and everybody affected by the hurricane here and in the Carolinas and Georgia. You know, hopefully try to get back to normal here. But yeah, the markets are exciting and it's good to be with you, because I feel like we've done this a couple times, I feel like, over this range where we seem to get excited and it hasn't worked out yet. But I know, we've been kind of pinpointing this, fall, late fall, early winter of a time where we feel like some catalysts are going to take place here. And just wanted to give a shout out to our guy, Inverted Investing. He's definitely one of our number one subscribers, who's actually also a hater. He leaves us pretty mean comments all the time, but he's a bear, and I just wanted to extend the hand and welcome him on the bull train. You're always welcome on our side, Inverted Investing. However, he could also always be right, but it's always good to see him in the comments. So shout out to that guy. He's one of my favorites personally.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we'll take the SEO value, but we got a saying over here, and it's, if you're not long, you're wrong. And so, unfortunately, to all the bears out there, fortunately, I would say for most of us, the bears are fighting a losing battle at the moment. And as we will see in today's episode, as we will view on the charts in just a moment here, prices are just tearing. Bitcoin is reclaiming highs. And I want to go ahead and actually move us over to the screen share here so that we can take a look at everything that is happening. So let's go ahead and take a look at this Bitcoin chart on the screen here. And so a quick reminder, if you want to track along with all the content and videos and everything that we're going to be putting on screen here, from the charts to the news articles to tweets, whatever it may be, you got to go over to our YouTube channel. It's the Crypto 101 podcast on YouTube. So if you're a Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts or Audible listener, you got to go over to the YouTube channel to see all the video counterparts for everything that we're going to be referencing here today. So let's kick things off with the charts first. What in the world is happening to Bitcoin? Because as you can see, Tivo, we are coming off this. We came up to the top of this falling channel. We rejected it, came back down towards the heart line of this channel on Bitcoin. And ever since then, we have just been on a straight upwards recovery to new multi-month highs. In fact, this is the highest level that we have seen Bitcoin since July of this year. So this is almost 3-month highs for Bitcoin. And with this, if we zoom out, it looks like the downtrend is slowly breaking. It's just huge for Bitcoin, right? Because what we have been seeing is lower highs, lower lows, and now what we're starting to see is higher highs and higher lows over here. So it's the opposite of this downtrend. We're starting to see an uptrend in Bitcoin over the last couple of months that is trying to break us out of this downtrend that we have been in. And the kind of primary resistance level that Bitcoin does have is seemingly being broken as we speak. So Bitcoin is above the AVWAP from the high. It's above the 200-day moving average. It's getting above its primary falling resistance. And now it's starting to reconquer these final highs that are closer to 70K. And all-time highs are right around 74K, right below that as well. So Bitcoin is pushing higher over here. And if we kind of close this down to a 1-hour time frame, we can see just how nice and just how strong this recovery has been. I mean, even yesterday when Bitcoin kind of ripped all the way up here, it's all a sharp sell-off and immediately recovered all of this and more on the dip. So sold off from about 68K all the way down to 64K. And then here we are today now pushing up towards, 68 and a half, $69,000 for Bitcoin. And we're just seeing a huge push across the board. And of course, with this, we're seeing altcoins pop left and right. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But I do want to flash another kind of cool little piece of data on the screen here while we're talking about it. Because again, the push is happening everywhere. So I'm going to throw this up here because what this shows is that Bitcoin's MACD is about to make a bullish crossover on the weekly chart, which is the first time that it has done this in nearly a year. So this is a big deal. We're not just seeing the 1 hour chart or the daily chart or some of this other stuff pushing Bitcoin's price a little bit higher into these highs. We're seeing it on the bigger time frames as well. So Bitcoin's pushing upwards. We're seeing it on the short term. We're seeing it on the indicators. We're seeing it on the long term. And of course, we're seeing it in the fundamentals as well, because Bitcoin is doing all of this while a couple of key pieces of, I guess, information or data are all still fighting against it. Number one, if you look at the traditional markets, things like NASDAQ, things like S&P 500, things like Dow Jones, they've been getting peppered. Yesterday in the market was a really nasty day for all of them. This is the NASDAQ chart. Then we have the S&P getting hammered yesterday with the big red candle. And then even with the Dow Jones, that thing got whacked yesterday too. So if you look at like the Dow Jones and some of these other things, big old red candles coming in from all of those. So risk on assets from the traditional side, not having a good time. What's Bitcoin doing? Well, it's skyrocketing to new highs. It doesn't care. What about another piece of information like the DXY or the Dixie? Well, historically, this has been very inversely correlated to Bitcoin. So when the Dixie rises, Bitcoin is almost always falling. And here we've seen that despite the Dixie rising, Bitcoin is rising as well. It's fighting against the Dixie. And so I bring all this up because Bitcoin is doing really good at a time where it probably should be getting beaten down. And the point that I want to make here is that the bulls are so strong. There are so many buyers here that it simply does not matter. Now, the other half of this is what's going to happen once traditional on risk or risk on assets are more favorable. What happens when the buyers come in to traditional risk on assets and they're a lot more comfortable? What happens when the Dixie starts falling and that's more favorable for Bitcoin? Well, I think that is the time when Bitcoin really starts to skyrocket. And the whole crypto industry, I think, will flourish once we start seeing a downturn in the Dixie and an uptick in traditional risk on assets. And we're not even seeing that yet. And we're still heading upwards in a pretty parabolic manner at the moment. So if you're looking for some more stuff to get excited about, Bitcoin's doing this. The crypto market's doing this at a time where it should be falling. And it begs the question, what's going to happen once a couple of these catalysts start, pointing more towards the bullish direction? And we see the fall of the DXY and we see, the rise again of risk on assets and things of that nature. And I think that is going to be one of the big things that kind of just sends us soaring. So we're not out of the clear yet. We're not out of the woods. We are still at a key level of resistance. We want to circle back to this in a little bit because we don't want to spend too much time on the TA. But what we are going to say is, hey, Bitcoin is coming back to a macro area of resistance up here as it gets close to 70K. We're going to be watching it closely. Of course, we want to see the breakout. We love the price action that we're seeing so far, but there's some big resistance stacked up towards the low end of 70K as we approach these all-time highs again. And I think it's an area to keep an eye on because if we do fall, if we do see maybe a little bit of a rejection in here, there could be a few more speed bumps in the road, especially as we head into election season. So prepare for some choppy price action. We are net positive. We are net bullish on the entire cryptocurrency industry, but we are preparing for those speed bumps accordingly. Now, another cool piece of data that we had here, Tivo, was in regards to these Bitcoin ETFs. And I'm going to flash this up on the screen real fast, but I want to get your thoughts on this because we were chatting about it right before we got started. But